I want to say thanks to everybody for coming out today and welcome. Let's keep this very interactive.
Yeah, please, man. Like that's the best way to like pick up knowledge, especially for me, because things will start to pop up during conversation. So if we can have that kind of like coffee table kind of round feel,
I think that's way better.
That's better
than trying to do a
than
talk.
an interview.
Yeah, trying to do an interview, talk show. No.
Yeah, this
but let's start at the beginning anyway. Like growing up in Cleveland, did you know that you wanted to be a filmmaker? When did that first happen for you? When did you first get interested, and how?
When I first got interested, when my mom had this old like video camera, you know, cassette VCR joint, and I was always playing around with it, man. My dad would tell you, he was around to see me just run around with the camera, imitating movies that I like, you know. One of them I always say this was Bad Boys, because it's like just such a random movie to like go into, but you know, I would mimic the scenes, shots, you know, learning stuff like over the shoulders and stuff like that. I didn't know what they were called. I didn't know terminology at the time, but to me, it was just trying to see if I can make it look like what I saw on TV. No ambition necessarily to be a filmmaker. It was just fun, you know. Right. Then I played basketball, you know, middle school, high school. Always still had a camera around, recording friends and that jazz. But it wasn't until I got to college. My first year at Baldwin Wallace College was I took film studies and started breaking down movies. And I was like, this is deep, you know, this is fun. So really? My freshman year, you know, had a talk with my mom, told her I wanted to be a filmmaker, a director, I think, because I didn't know what everything was at that point. I was like, I think it's a director. And I mean, again, this was years ago, so I didn't have the access as you guys do now, you know, and stuff like that. This was even before, like, it's right on the cusp of like Google. So yeah, spoke to mom about it, and I don't know, I was like, I didn't know the steps, I didn't know what to do. I'm gonna finish out school, and then as you know, I got to my senior year, I started Googling, you know, top film schools at the time, and USC and NYU were, I think, battling for the #1 spot, and that's how I eventually ended up going to USC.
Yeah, did you apply to other schools as well?
No, only USC and NYU. That was it. I was like, I'm going for the top, like, because I felt like I had to build a network, man. Again, this is like 8 years ago, maybe. This wasn't built, right? The CSU.
Oh, no.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is a grad program where I applied to. They didn't have this here. Tri-C was still developing, you know. But I felt like I needed a network. I felt like I needed to learn more, you know, and I felt like I had to leave and see what was out there. And so with NYU and CSU, NYU rejected me, and that hurt me because I thought I was going to end up going to that school. I felt like their style and that like grit was going to be like right up my alley. But and it was also #2 to USC, which is #1 film school. And so when they rejected me, I ended up just going to USC.
Can you talk a little bit about your experience at USC? What were some of the highlights of your time there? Can you talk a little bit about what you learned in the film school environment?
No. I learned a lot. Some of the highlights, one was just being out in LA. You know, it was my first time in LA, first time leaving my family. So, you know, it came with a lot of nerves. I mean, I don't know if you guys are all from Cleveland or came from different places, but I stayed home. I went to Baldwin Wallace and stuff like that to stay home to my family and to help out. So that was a big shift for me, you know, to be totally honest with you. It took me a while to kind of get comfortable. You know, I finally found like a crew. Because LA, you can get really sucked up in the drama out there. It's like, it's different. It's always sunny. Like, you could easily be by the beach every day. And I didn't want to lose focus, but being around filmmakers, being around people who love to do what they do was fun, you know. And so what I ended up doing was just working. The biggest tip and advice I could even give you guys being in film school was the person next to you is the person that's actually going to help you break into your career. It's not the person in the studio. It's not. It is not an agent. It's none of those things, man. It's going to be the person that, and if be a crew, you guys, it could be 5 of you, you know, choose director, producer, cinematographer, get an editor, and get somebody in sound. Boom, go make a movie, like legit. Go make a short film, go do whatever. It's not your teachers, none of that, not your mentors. I'm telling you, there's too many times I've seen people going to USC expecting or thinking that just because we're in the top film school in the world, they were gonna go out and direct and make movies, and that definitely was not the case. Every conversation I had with anybody who's made it, it's been like, this person next to me helped me create this, or this person, like it's all about collaboration. So that was huge, you know, and I found that at the school. Like a lot of filmmakers I started working with we ended up doing The Land together, and we ended up doing TV stuff together. We ended up doing music videos together. Brought a lot of them on Creed 2, which is a big, huge studio film. You know, so it's definitely the person next to you, man. But yes, the teachers and faculty are definitely here to mentor, to guide, but don't expect them to give you a job or, you know what I mean? Like, it's tough, you know, because I remember being in you guys' seat, and I remember meeting people like John Singleton and all these big directors, and I'm like, I want an internship. I want to work under you. And some of them are like, man, I'm still trying to get a job myself. You know what I mean? So I was like, damn, that's real. So it helps you put things in perspective.
Oh, it does.
You know, you never know when the next gig is happening. You never know. You don't know any of that. You know what the filmmaker is going through.
Right.
But at the end of the day, they probably, you know, count on their selected core group. So that's the biggest thing I took out of the school. Is building a foundation with a group of people who really wanted to do what we do, and they knew what they wanted to do, meaning like I found an editor who was like, I want to edit, I love editing. You know, she's amazing, Sarah. She's done all my stuff since I worked with her in film school. But like to see her passionate about her craft, you know what I mean?
So she edited your student short?
Yeah, she edited my student, the
also
one that sold
edited
HBO.
Creed?
She edited Creed 2, she edited The Land. It's a kid named Esri who's from here. I did 2 music videos for him, she edited that. Machine Gun Kelly's Dope Man music video, she edited that. Yeah, you know what I mean? We have a shorthand, you know, we have similar sensibilities, so when you find somebody in your clique that you feel like y'all like the same movies, go by that. That's like the first question you should ask anybody, you know what I mean? It's like, yo, what are your some of your favorite movies? If they fall in line and y'all kind of have the same taste, you know what I mean? And then, you know, what kind of movies you want to make. You know, then that's another conversation to be had. But even that conversation alone, you'll see it. If you guys love film, that's going to spark something instantly. You know what I mean? There's a connection there because that's what movies do. You know, they connect people. So, yeah, we keep that core group around us. That was a long-winded answer for that short question. I just realized I went on a rant.
Well, no, there was a lot of ansers in there.
Okay. My bad.
It might have been, no, it was a small question, big answer. It's all good.
And then some of my experiences, man, because everyone's been asking me on the tour, like, you know, how I got onto Creed 2, et cetera. Again, it was somebody who else was in the program. Ryan Coogler was there. He was in his last year. I was in my first year there. And so, you know, USC is probably like 4 black students there every year. And so, you know, it's that natural, like, connection where you start to, like, find each other in a room full of other people. And I asked them mad questions. I was like, dude, I heard people are buzzing about you. I heard you this year in talks for Fruitvale right after we graduated. What are some of the things you did? You know what I mean? What classes did you take? You know, what teachers you found helpful? You know, and that ultimately became, you know, he became like a mentor in many ways, and that helped me navigate the system a little bit more.
Right, and he directed Creed 1.
He directed Creed 1. He directed Fruitvale, then he also directed Creed 1 and Black Panther. But when speaking to him, he pointed out a few classes and tips that were helpful. Like, for example, there's a class at USC called a 546, and I don't know if you guys have a similar class where you work with other students, and the school actually funds it. So they give you like $12,000 to make a short. But you have to pitch, so they treat it like the studio system. So they make you team up with another writer, another producer, and if you're the director, you 3 have to pitch, you know what I mean? And it goes through this long process, and if you're the one to get it, the next semester, you guys, that's the only class you're working on, which is super cool. But he was like, you know, people usually get in their 3rd year, because they take these classes, and this, that, and the other, because you have to do, you know, a 546 before this to actually do it, meaning you have to be on set. I don't know, man, I just navigated the system. I did it within a year and a half, you know what I mean? So I did it really early. Yeah.
That's quick.
It was really fast. I was moving, man. I was sprinting. I didn't
even know it was possible to do it in a year and a half.
They didn't either, man. A lot of students were upset. Like, how? He didn't even take the course yet? And he was like, I worked around the system ultimately and found out that you could take other courses and be qualified for the class. But at the end of the day, honestly, I think it was just a pitch. You know what I mean? Like when you go into a room pitching a story, just knowing the heart of the film and how to execute it, you know, and coming from a place that was, it was relatable to me. You know, it's a short film called A Different Tree. And the writer, a woman writer named Victoria Rose, it was a true story actually based off of her life. And so we created that, and that kind of led the way. After that, I started entering the film festivals. Won this my first film festival was called ABFF, American Black Film Festival, out in Miami, and it ended up selling to HBO. Did NBC festivals and stuff like that. You just kind of send it out there so you hopefully get spotted. And then after that, it sold to HBO, and that's when agents and stuff came knocking at the door while I was still in school. I was trying to see if I could drop out. I was like, man, if I get an agent, I'm dropping out of this thing. Like, I'm out of here. But no, actually, the agent and manager gave me advice. You know what I mean? It was like, she actually went to USC, so that was super helpful.
Oh, that is cool.
Completely, it's a huge like network. And she was like, you know, keep your, you should probably stay in school and build, and there's this thesis program, and that's when I started working on my thesis project, and that was the land. I started writing the land. So since I was going so fast through the program, I petitioned to start taking writing courses, because I realized that in order for me to tell the stories that I wanted to tell, I needed to develop as a writer, you know, and I wanted to be great at all aspects. So really, I studied directing, writing, and I did a lot of sound work because I love sound. I think it's amazing. I think it's super underrated when it comes to film.
Music is real important in your
Yeah,
films,
music, but just sound in general. Like I'm talking about everything from Foley and effects, the way you use it to convey a message or a feeling. You know what I mean? I don't think people really dive into it too much. You know, you're not thinking of it as an amateur filmmaker because you're really thinking about shots. Right. You're like, how can I get the dopest shot? You know what I mean? No, legit, y'all been in that situation.
No.
Like, how can I get the coolest shot? How can I make it look like this? What lighting setup? What camera they use? It's all about lenses. It's about storytelling, man. So once you grab people by introducing them to characters that they love or someone they can connect with, then you start building upon that. And I use sound a lot.
Let's talk about the land for a minute.
Yeah, go ahead, because I can ramble all day. Again, y'all should.
No, this is great. You're making my job easy. I dig that. All I have to do is loft one up.
Yeah.
So could you talk about like the genesis of the project, and then also how you kind of finally got with Tyler Davidson, and
and
like how the project came to fruition, but also where it started.
Okay.
Where did it start within you?
Yeah, no, great question, man. Actually, I think I was going in there with my rambling. No, because it was my thesis project at USC, and so yeah, again, going back to me wanting to write, I knew I had to write something because I wanted to tell a story that actually took place here at home, and so what I did was I started. Just looking for stories, figuring what touched me, and there was some skateboarders out in LA that I found during my mentorship program. My mentor out in LA at this Martin Luther King Elementary, and there was these kids who were like jumping the fences and skateboarding there every day, and they're about to get in trouble by security, they're about to call the cops on them. And I was like, nah, just tell them to move off campus while we work with the 3rd and 5th graders. They're like 15, 6 years old. And then I went over there, and it came through a conversation. You know, I found out the kids were selling weed, and they were using weed to like buy equipment and rent stuff like lights and all that stuff. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. You know what I mean?
Entrepreneurial, huh?
They were. And so they allowed me to follow them around. I followed them around for a bit, and you know, got to see inside their lives, and it was very similar to mine. So when I came back home, I was looking for people like Justin. There's a few guys here stuck in Ohio, people stuff like that, who are into that scene. And so, you know, I fed off of them, and they were like, you know, here it's hard to make it. You know, it's especially if you're in the skateboard scene, and they gave me all the reasons why. It's always snowy and this, that, and the other. Forget people out in LA, they got it easy if they can skateboard. And so that it became with the sport, and then I just found the characters that I loved, these 4 boys, and I kind of put a piece of myself in each one of the boys, you know what I mean? So each one has its own arc, but it was also different points of my life, you know what I mean? So it came from here, you know what I mean? When I started getting into the characters, I had a foundation. I was like, skateboarding, I think I could work with that. I'd like to challenge myself. I never skateboarded before. I just thought it was cool. And so visually, I was like, I think there's something interesting I could do here.
So it wasn't the skating that you were familiar with?
No, it was the boys, of course. When I met the kids, I was like, this is I'm kind of rooting for you. At the same time, you shouldn't be selling weed. But I'm like, this is interesting because I know nothing about skateboard. So let me follow you guys around. And then there was their chemistry and all this. And I'm like, you know, I love movies like Stand By Me. I love movies like Boys in the Hood. You know what I mean? So it's like, I guess Juice. I don't know if you guys know Juice. Martin Dickinson. Love that dude. He's a super dope filmmaker and guy, actually. So I could just combine those like films that I love, you know, those coming of age stories. But again, with things that I was going through. So you got a kid named Booby. My nickname is Booby, so now y'all know y'all can make fun of me. I get it. With Booby.
That's very vulnerable of you.
Yeah, it's out there now. I can't even. Either I say it or my sister's gonna do it in the next interview. She'll be like, "His name's Booby. Call him out." you know, and so there's a character in the script named Booby who's like the good kid. You know what I'm saying? His dad works like in a factory. Shout out to my dad in the background. You know what I mean? He's chilling, hanging out with me. So there's a bit of me there. The kid who gets out, you know, who's conscious. He's well aware of what's going on. And then there's a kid named Cisco, who's my cousin. He was the wild one in the bunch. You know, he's the one who kind of got lost in the system a bit. But it's always that kid in that story, one, but also in real life. You know what I mean? And so what I thought would be interesting and different if I didn't follow Booby, the kid who gets out, what if I followed Cisco? So example, if you watch Boys in the Hood, I wasn't following Trey anymore, I was following Doughboy, you know what I'm saying? And that was my approach. I was like, I never get to follow like the one who got lost, you know, between the tell of the city. And so, yeah, so when I dove into these characters, you begin to fall in love with it. And then obviously you got the backdrop, Cleveland. So it's like all these areas I grew up in, Puerto Rican festivals in there, I used to go there every year. My mom's Puerto Rican, so I'm like mixed right down the middle. And so there's bits of me everywhere in the film. Then the city kind of has its own identity through my perspective. You know what I mean? Because I know when I was making it and when I was coming out with the movie, a lot of people were like, why would you show her this side of Cleveland? It's the dark side or blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I'm sorry, that's the way I grew up. You know what I mean? So I just felt like I wanted to show something that was true. You know what I mean? Whether you like it or not, it's reality. I can't do nothing about that. You know what I mean? But just show you that it is what it is. And so I consider it, you know, my love letter to the city. You know what I mean? And how I grew up. And it was a dream because, like, again, going back home, I could talk about this all day because I love this film and the fact that we finished it. But leaving Cleveland, and I told you how difficult it was for me, it was like, wow, I feel like LeBron James in 2000. You know what I mean? Like, the decision was made. I went to LA and recorded myself and said, I'm going, I'm out. Like I guess that was like me coming back to get my ring, I guess, for the city. Oh, so horrible.
No,
a crazy LeBron analogy. So yeah, I guess you can look at it that way. It does work, actually. That's ironically enough, it does. Yeah, and so that's how the land came about. Sorry, I didn't even get to Tyler Davidson yet. So with all that passion and love behind the project, started looking up people here in Cleveland that were doing stuff. Tyler was on the list of producing films. I was like, dude, I'm trying to make this movie. He's like, dope. He's like, you know, we're gonna need some traction behind it. I was like, you know what? I got an agent now. I'm gonna use my agent to call Machine Gun Kelly's people, and I'm trying to set up a meeting. Ironically, Machine Gun Kelly was in the city. We met at Starbucks downtown, and it was random as hell. And he was like, dude, I dig you, I dig your vibe. Like, I'm down to be in a project, let me know. And originally, he was supposed to be a character named Patty Cake, who's also in the film. So he's gonna be one of the leads. And then he got on a tour, he dropped the album, his tour started, so we had to put him in a cameo, but he's a producer on it. And then my agent brought me to a Nas concert once, and then I met Nas backstage, and we just kind of linked, I guess, clicked. And then he became an executive producer. So I had kind of some of the star power behind me when I was going into rooms after that. So it helped with trying to get money, et cetera. So that's when the movie kind of came about, and then we ended up having some crazy people who actually believed in me to give me, you know, $1 million or whatever it is to come back home and shoot the film, and that's how that happened.
Cool. Khalim, I see that you had a question.
Yeah, good to see you again, Steven. No, you filmed at like Lakeview Terrace Projects. And like that's like where I'm from. So like when I saw that was just like real personally empowering for me. Like when I saw that. So out of curiosity, do you have like any specific memories like while coming up, or like any specific reason why you chose Lakeview?
Yeah, we used to ride our bikes through it all the time. Like that was like the neighborhood. You know what I mean? I grew up predominantly on the west side, so all those places, man. You know what I mean? I had an aunt that lived there. You know what I mean? So that's where my cousin stayed at one point. Esri actually had lived there at one point. He's also an actor in the film and from Cleveland. And so obviously it's in a weird place. You know what I mean? Actually the setting is actually really beautiful. It's right by the water. You know what I mean? So it's like there, but yet it's like, you know, project housing basically. You know what I mean? That's literally why. And all the kids there in the movie, you know what I mean? They were literally kids from next door, and I was like, I want to do a scene where we just, you know, capture the vibe and energy of the city and the neighborhood, and you know, we shoot them doing backflips, playing around, like all that's in the film. It's just real texture added to the film. You know, I think a lot of the movie's texture. You know, like I said, it wasn't like a full-on just plot-driven genre. It was just little pieces that I felt like were just real and gritty, I guess, so to speak. And That's why. I think all the areas I've been to before, I knew every location before I even came here to location scout. You know what I mean? I knew I was going to shoot in the warehouse on the east side. I knew all these spots, so it was very few, and just asked for a lot of favors. You guys are on that stage right now, right? A lot of favors, man. Like, whatever, I'll shoot you a commercial, I'll do this, Instagram video, all that, you know, especially during my short film days. I did a lot of that.
So, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I actually know Ed personally because we run around with a group of friends and stuff. So, I mean, me obviously where we came from, seeing where he like in a film like The Land. How would we go from somewhere like from the bottom, then coming up to being films like The Land?
How does Esri, or are you talking about just
use him as an example, like how if somebody wanted to follow those same footsteps?
Oh yeah. Well, Esri, obviously he's a rapper, right? He's a rap artist at first, but he's very, and I say this, persistent. You know what I mean? Him, his mom, he has a huge support system behind him. He's been doing it for a while. You know what I mean? He's young, but he's been doing this as like a kid. You know what I mean? So he's been around locally, obviously. I mean, this movie was like kind of just like the perfect match. Ultimately, you know, I had Nas as executive producer, and I saw him on Sway. Like, my first time meeting Esri was through Facebook, you know what I mean? So I was like, dang, this kid's from Cleveland, came in town. I was like, dude, I want to, you know, have this rapper come through and actually audition for the role that I saw on the internet. And he came by, and he was all right. He ain't kill it. But with some work, he has a natural charm to him, obviously, and then that, everyone gravitates towards that. And we use it on camera. But that led to him meeting Nas. That led to him signing to a label. That led to him now, you know, doing tours and stuff like that and doing what he does. Again, you know him personally. So persistence, being in the right place at the right time, obviously. But honestly, just working on your craft, I think. More importantly, I keep preaching that because that's obviously what's important. I think the opportunity will come. You know what I mean? If you guys are still playing this for the long run and really want to become filmmakers, it will come. I mean, it's already here if you're in film school and you have all access to this equipment. So it's here, you know, but when it actually does like present itself, you definitely want to be ready. You know what I mean? And I think that's what's more important than anything. I can't tell you when, you know what I mean? Like, it's up to you. Like, you know, if you wanna push fast like I did, I was like, I'm not waiting. I'm gonna go out to LA, and any opportunity I get, I'm gonna kill it. You should definitely have that same mentality. If you're like, yo, I wanna mold and sit on the script and keep developing, it's on you. It's on you when you start to open up your laptop and write. It's on you when you start asking your friends for favors and coming out to make short films or a feature if you wanna go that route. So you can't really put it on anyone else or blame it. There's no one way to do this. You know what I mean? I definitely have friends who haven't gone to film school, who went to Sundance and whose film done better than mine. You know what I mean? I went to the top film school in the world. You know what I mean? But it's just like they had that same drive, if that makes any sense. And you find your voice. That's what's most important about this craft. I mean, if you guys are doing it to make money, you could do commercials, you could do music videos, you'll definitely find something to do if you're trying to make money. But if you're in it to like express yourself, which I feel like I'm in it to do, I wanted to find a way visually and through this medium to do that, you know, and that takes practice, that takes failing. You know, like me and my actors, every time we're on set, you know, the quote like fail big.
Right.
You know, I'd rather have everyone feel comfortable at failing than scared, you know what I mean? So that's the advice I can give you so far as like if you're really trying to get out there. And then I'm looking to film festivals because they are helpful. Look into, like I said, the network around you. And I'm gonna keep saying this, man, build with your team. You know, build with your team. Esri's success comes a lot on his mom. It comes a lot on Jordan, his manager. Like, he has a team around him that cares, you know what I mean? And I'm part of his team now, so he knows he can use me at any point. He texted me today, like, saw the movie, great, but when we gonna work on this music video? You know, and so I'm like, I got you. But I wanna see him grow, you know what I mean? I know where he's from. He's like the little me, you know what I'm saying? So I want to see him grow, and that's important to me, you know? So, yeah, that's all. That makes sense. I'm sorry, just keep it honest and real.
Well, that makes sense. In the back.
You already have your next project on the table.
I am putting a lot of energy into this. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm tired as crap right now. On the restaurant, coffee is keeping me alive. Caffeine, brother, caffeine. No, I'm working on it. I've always have been working on what's next. You know what I mean? Even before I started this project, again, I was writing other material. I was working on a script. about Wendell Scott. He was like this first African-American NASCAR driver. And he was light-skinned, and so he would actually pass as white sometimes to race. And I just thought it was super interesting. I haven't seen race, portrayed in that way before, and during a time period of Jim Crow South, and one of the most dangerous sports ever. I'm not into NASCAR, so it's going to be another challenging sports film. But I started writing that, met the family. I was doing a lot of research. I spent time in Virginia, went to Daytona 5, like all that stuff to really try to dive into it. Then I was working on Emmett Till for a while. To be honest, I got possessed by it, to be totally honest. Like, that story touched me in many ways. And Tamir Rice incident happened here too, so that gave me another push and motivation for it. And so I was just writing that. I wasn't looking at Creed 2. I wasn't looking at anything else. I was doing Grownish and this TV show Rapture about music, just because it wouldn't take away from me getting on the key, the typing. So those two projects, and then right now, to be honest, I'm in my career where a lot of stuff is coming to me. So I'm reading a lot. I'm reading in between flights. I'm reading, on the way out here. Just trying to see if there's anything that I gravitate towards. So I don't know. With this game, you honestly don't know what's going to come first. But whatever it is, I'm definitely going to be excited and passionate about it. I was preaching this last night, and I was just at the radio station earlier. Something that you'll realize, because if you're a filmmaker and you love this, you will get into it. A lot of this is sacrifice, what you're doing, because you're the only one that believes in yourself, you know what I mean? So when you do a job like this where you've given up a year and a half, you have to put everything on hold, you know what I mean? Like, this year I missed my 2-year anniversary. I missed my wife's 30th birthday, you know what I mean? Because I was just doing this job. And so that's real. These are moments you can't get back. So when I say yes to a project, that I want to do, I got to have reasons to do it, and it's not financial reasons, you know what I mean? I'm good. I came from nothing, so any money is good to me, you know what I mean? So I'm not in it for the money at all, but I just want to make sure it touches you guys, or you guys are able to walk away with something. Some of you guys saw Creed 2 last night. There's a lot of emotion in it, man. I did not focus primarily on the boxing. I was like, there's stuff in this relationship, black love I wanted to showcase. Like, it's really important to me. So yeah, we'll see what that is, bro. I can't give you an exact answer, but that's about as much as I can give you.
And Creed 2 was like a year from the time you signed on to it being out,
November
right?
November 21st is when we dropped, and a year, that same date, November 21st, because it's before Thanksgiving, I had a meeting with MG. I got the call that day, and that day, I was on set. I was working on Grownish. These guys came to the studio, and like, they were like eager. They're like, we want to get this rolling, man. We saw your film, and we definitely want to shoot this year, and we think it'd be a big opportunity for you. And I was just like, well, what's the story about? You know what I mean? Like, what is the movie about? Where's Sly at? With the film, with the script. Where's Mike at? Like, how do they feel about this project? And then when I meshed with these guys, and we went, we decided to do this together. Yeah, I was out. It was November 21st, so January 6th, I took the flight to Philly, and I was there for months, 7 months, something like that, maybe close to 8. And then Ed went back to LA and edited, and then 2 weeks ago turned it in.
That's not a lot of time to prep.
No prep time.
How did you handle the fact that in my mind, so much of a director's work is prep?
All of it's prep.
So how did you handle such a short prep period?
So 2 things. These guys already knew their characters. That helped a lot. You know what I mean? Right. They knew their characters, so I didn't have to go too deep into that. I was just trying to figure out where to take them next. I was just guiding them, not necessarily creating them, if that makes any sense. So that takes some of the pressure off. Sly and Mike have done fight scenes before. They know how to execute them. Sly is, when I say he's the OG at it, he's the mastermind. He truly is. He's done 8 of these movies, almost fought in all of them. And he fought in many other films before, because he's an action star, you know what I mean? So he knows the game in and out, so you lean on that. As you're developing the script, as you're, thinking about shots, my conversation with him is like, all right, man, it's a square box. Right. Where did you put your cameras? How many did you have on the last one? You know what I mean? How do I execute a day? How do I make day with all this fighting? Right. Some stuff he was really helpful in. Some I had to learn through the failures, you know what I mean? Like, I I don't want to spoil the movie for any of you guys who haven't seen it, but I had multiple fights in the film. And, you know, as the fights went on, and I think they got better because I was learning as I was going, you know. But, you know, to give you an example, you know, I shot with 6 cameras, figuring out the placement. And then my first day when I shot with the 6 cameras, I was lost as hell, bro. I was like, what camera am I looking at? What's happening? And then I realized that, you know, like, and this slide didn't even teach me, this is something I learned on my own, was that when you are trying to execute with multiple cameras, it's helpful to aim towards one specific beat or characters who are tracking the same beat. What I mean by that is I got Drago versus Creed. I have 3 cameras on Drago and 3 cameras on Creed. 2 different emotions going on. Creed gets a punch in, they're cheering, they're like, damn. And then I didn't know which way to look, you know what I mean? So I was like, how about I turn all 6 of the cameras on Creed's corner, you know what I mean, and focus on that, so that way when I'm looking at the screen and go, boom, big punch, I can see Tessa Rise, Marianne. I'm like, oh, this is all in unison.
That's interesting.
You know, and you don't learn that until you're on set. And I'm like, damn, I'll do that in round 2, because round 1 it was a horrible day. Round 1 was bad. I was like, damn, all right, we'll do it in the next round. And so the next day, you know, you're creating your shot list. You're telling the crew, like, the next day, like, look, switch game plans. This is what we're doing. You know, you're just orchestrating, man, guiding the set. So some of the stuff you learn on the way, you make those mistakes, right. But they're with you, you know what I mean? I go to someone like Sly, and he's like, that makes sense, you know what I mean? That's when he gives you the head nod, you're like, yeah, just please Sly, you know what I mean? So I do what I do.
Rocky his own self.
Rocky himself. But he mastered the format of it, and again, like, he was someone to lean on throughout the process. And then I knew creatively I was only going to be able to go so far. Right. Because of the prep time, because a lot of this stuff goes into prep. And so, like, I wanted to do 2 dope walkout scenes. How do I do it? I can't do too much. I can't have them come from under the ground, but that takes too much prep, and they did it before and actually doesn't fit with the character. Start looking into lights. That's the fastest thing, you know what I mean? And I was like, how can I creatively do something and make it feel dimensional by using lights? So I stopped looking at walkouts and started looking at fashion shows and all kind of stuff to get inspiration from it, you know what I mean? Because they use lights a lot. And so you find that inspo, put it on the board, send it to your production designers, like, I could create this in a way cheap way than, you know, actually doing something else or using visual effects, because visual effects is going to cost me time later, you know what I mean, and more money possibly. So yeah, man, again, surrounding myself with a team that knew what they were doing, because this is the 8th one. But yet I knew creatively, like, I couldn't do too many, like, new things, and then finding the approach that fits the schedule and that fits my style, if that makes any sense. You know what I mean?
Definitely it does. Yes.
So you said something a moment ago about, you said, I don't know where to put the camera, so I asked Sly, hey, where'd you guys put the cameras last time? I would feel uncomfortable, I don't know, saying that I don't know, I'm the director and I'm not sure what to do. So that's a good environment where you can say, I'm not sure, collaborative.
I mean, that's how I work. You know, no. There are definitely directors who won't. You know what I mean? Like, I guess that's them. That's something. And it's not even about. I'm glad it's more with comfortableness than it is like ego. You get what I'm saying? Like, if it's ego, throw that out the window, man. That's not gonna do you any good. But it's just being comfortable. Have real conversations, man. I mean, you want to work with people that believe in you and have a vision. If you say, like, I'm having trouble, like, trying to figure this out with a camera, like, they're gonna trust you more than someone who doesn't know what they're doing, walking around on set acting as if they do, and then you're gonna create enemies. You know what I mean? They're gonna be like, why am I following this false leader? You know what I mean? Compared to somebody who's like, hey, man, I really don't know how the hell do you do. You know what I mean? Like, how do you do it?
You probably like, I watched Raging Bull 20 times.
I watched Raging Bull. I don't know how the camera went down with him. What happened? Like, did y'all have him mad? But these are experts, man. And then honestly, man, if you got a crew that's passionate and they're excited, they get excited trying to find out how. You know what I mean? Like a lot of questions I had, people didn't even know how to do it. There's some stuff, again, stuff that didn't even make the movie that I tried that I felt like was super innovative, super crazy, and then none of the crew members even know how to do it. You know what I mean? And with that window, we didn't have time to really explore. We tried it anyways because I'm very ambitious, so I probably wasted a day of shooting. But if I don't try, you know, then I'll be here right now thinking, what if I could have pulled it off? But you have to ask questions. I'm not afraid to ask questions. You know what I mean? I don't fear how dumb I look. You know what I'm saying? Trying to figure things out. it probably played a big part in where I am right now, if that makes any sense. If you don't know, man, you gotta figure it out somehow. And if you can't figure it out through the internet or somebody's interview or podcast talking about filmmaking, ask those around you, you know. And honestly, Sly made it comfortable to ask him. You know what I mean? It's his baby. You know what I mean? And when he saw that I respected his baby enough to ask him for advice, I think that kind of was like, this dude really is trying to, you know, one, prove something, but yeah, he's also listening. And I don't know, you gain respect in a different light. But don't just go around scared asking, though. Don't be like, I don't know how to do it. Oh my God, don't panic. Correction, don't panic. Keep it cool. But definitely don't be afraid. Don't be afraid.
It seems like you had a strong vision in a lot of ways that allowed you to be more flexible with certain other issues, like camera placement during the fight scenes. So it's not like you didn't know what you wanted.
No, yeah.
You just knew that in this situation there was some difficulties, so you needed some help.
And I didn't use everything he get. Like I used the concept of what you start outside the ring, work your way inside, right? It's basically like wide shot, go to tight. But then you learn steps of like breaking up the fight into different sections, you know what I mean? And then I learned stuff like where to aim the camera at one corner rather than both corners at the same time. And so it becomes like a combination of things. And then it's like, that's what you guys did. You started outside, but instead of outside on a ring post, because Sly likes to use ring post shots, meaning like they're up on the ledge on the ring height. I like to shoot underground, like through the ropes, underneath, you know, at low angles, because it made my characters feel bigger, you know. And there was something about Drago where like when he shook, the camera would shake, and I was like, that's cold. Like I like that. Like I was like, that dude, he's big, you know. And so that's where I wanted to be outside the ring, and it felt more raw, I guess, is you know, the term for it. And then when I was inside the ring, you know, I had a DP who's done a lot of commercial films, and he was scared that I wanted to do I was switching up handheld to Steadicam within moments, you know what I mean? Like I was like, Steadicam on Creed, he's smooth, he's boxing, he's using speed. And I was like, as soon as we cut the Drago, handheld camera, like he's coming, like boom, boom, but all four. And he's like, dude, what are we doing? Like he was like, I don't know if it's gonna work. I'm afraid that we're gonna miss the beat. I was like, look, it's about energy right now, you know what I mean? Like it's smoothness when we're looking at him, and when he comes, it's chaotic, you know, and people are afraid. And so we had to try it. And ironically, you know, he loves it, you know what I'm saying? Every time he's on camera, he's like, man, I'm glad we did that, because you can feel the shift in the middle of a matchup, you know, not necessarily even around. So, you know, you have people around you who are fearful of that. You know what I mean? You're kind of trying to blend two things or breaking a rule or something like that. But you got to try it, man. Yeah.
I saw a question over here.
Have you ever worked as a crew member at like PA or Grip, or did you just go straight to writing and directing your own stuff?
Always wrote and directed my own stuff, but I still was a PA. I definitely was a PA. I did some stuff here. I did this film called 25th Hill or something like that. Something shot 25 Hill. It's like a soapbox derby movie we shot here.
Oh, yeah.
I was a PA in a short film called The Wall of Fame. It was part of this program. Dang, I can't even remember some of the names of the people. But yes, I definitely PA'd on short films or other people's work. Like if you were saying like, yo, I wanted to direct something, I need your help. I'm like, cool, I'll go do the coffee run, go get the craft services, whatever, just to help him. And then I would PA on other people's set, maybe every weekend. I shot something every weekend while I was in school, by the way, every weekend. But if it wasn't my own, if I wasn't directing, I was helping someone else. But on bigger productions, yeah. But at USC, I was so into the craft that I didn't do anything big productions outside of that. Like I didn't PA on any sets, I didn't internship anywhere. I mean, you know, I remember like the guidance counselor dude person there was like, dude, you gotta start going to these studios and doing this. I was like, for what? Like I'm working on the craft. Like I don't wanna be in the office. I don't wanna do anything. I'm here, I'm paying this much money, I'm going to make movies, you know what I mean? So I just spent a lot of time just writing, directing, reading books, reading scripts, trying to figure it out, because I didn't consider myself a writer. I felt like that was one of like my weakest points, and so I was like, I'm making my best point. I'm making my strength. But I definitely PA. But what it does help you do when you're on other people's sets, is just see how they run it from the distance. I think that's important. You know, learn the hierarchy, learn the flow of a set. You know what I mean? So that way, you know, when I'm on set, I know who to talk to, who's underneath, so that you can go grab something to go get. You know, I know how the production is ran. So that's where PA on a big project will help. I did a few here and I got the concept, and then at a certain point when I feel like I got the concept, I was like, all right, I'm good. I know everyone's role. Everything else I don't know, I'll Google it later.
We're going to take one more question because we wanted to leave time for y'all to be able to, I hate to do this to you, but it was a request that you kind of hang out and give people a chance to talk to you a little bit one-on-one.
For sure. I mean, it's up to you guys if y'all want to keep rolling with questions or hang out. I feel like the hangout are going to be questions anyways.
Hangout's going to be questions.
But so it's up to you guys. I'm
but we'll take one more from the audience and then we'll do the hangout. Somebody who hadn't had a chance yet would be great. Yes.
So with writing, how do you stop doubt and like stop second guessing with stories? Like if I were to write something and like, this might not be good, or this doesn't look right or sound right, like how do you go about that?
My teacher told me this once, and I think everybody kind of follows this. If not, then I guess I'm tripping. But he said writing is rewriting. You know what I mean? So in order for you to rewrite, you have to get through some of the stuff you think that's bad, you know, whatever. You have to put it on the page. Table reads, man, don't take those for granted, man. Those are huge. I'll do it after first draft. You know what I mean? Like I feel good about it enough to where I'm like, I'll have a group read it. You know, just let it flow. See what people respond to. If people are giggling at the joke, if people aren't giggling at the joke, you know, whatever it is. That's probably the way I will approach it. You know what I mean? If something works, then there's times that you don't know if it's gonna work at all. I definitely wrote lines in Creed 2 that I was like, I don't know if this works, so let's see how it pans out. And I shot it anyways. You know what I mean? And I had doubt every time we shot it, but I shot it like I loved the scene. It was my favorite scene. And then later I cut it out and I was like, oh, it did not work at all. It didn't, because it's hard for me to tell sometimes. I don't know if I'm at a place where I'm like a pro where I just know instantly, you know what I mean? This is my second feature film, but if something about it made me want to write it on a page the first time, that's called an instinct, you know what I mean? And I don't want to lose that, if that makes sense. So if you start losing your instincts, you know, who are you as a filmmaker? What is your voice? Unless you put it on page and see if it connects, you know? But you have to just write it out. You know, I think if you don't write it out, you're gonna have the same feeling I had when I don't get a certain shot, because now I'm wondering if that moment would ever worked, would it have worked, you know? If you have the opportunity to do it, especially with writing, because writing you can just delete, Control-Z, copy, paste. That's like the time to like try everything. And the only way you can really test it, like I said, is doing table reads and getting a feel for it, or do a scene workshop, you know what I mean? Or do a rehearsal. I don't know why I forgot that. That's horrible. Director forgetting what's the term for. Or do a rehearsal. You know what I mean? Grab some actors who are in the school in the program. They're like, yo, y'all want to work on this scene? I'll even shoot it. You guys can use it for your reel, or do whatever. Meanwhile, I know if this scene works or not for my next picture. You know what I mean? So there's ways to definitely work around it. But writing is the cheapest way of, one, expressing yourself, and two, like figuring things out.
Testing out ideas. For
yeah,
sure.
man. For sure.
Well, Steven, thank you so much for coming and talking to us. I think we have a few minutes for everybody to kind of hang out and talk to you individually.
We just can't, but you inspire me different ways, for sure. Yeah, for sure, love. You definitely find inspiration in different places, man. Just make sure you definitely use it out there. Don't stop. People stop.
Here's my card.
Thank you.
On the back is my YouTube video. That's
Oh, awesome, bro.